that me or is that you? I don't see
Um,
my red button here. Here we go. Allow
if you could
recording.
accept that request, then I could have the recording as well.
Yep, I just did. Okay,
Okay,
it looks like this is
sweet.
going. Nice, nice, nice.
How's your day so far?
Pretty good. A little frustrating. I don't like it when tech isn't working the way that it's supposed to. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to start this remote gig, and it's been like 2 days where the this one thing that allows me to get into prescriptions
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's just not it's just not working, and so
Oh,
I
dang.
can't start. But besides that, everything's good. I got to surf in this morning, and I got a lot of work done. So, how about you?
Nice. Yeah, I I woke up feeling like pretty crappy because we had some wine last night at my house. And I have a 9 to 11 like class for school, and but um there's a 10 a.m. jujitsu class. So I
Okay.
was kind of like I woke up at like 8 and I was like feeling like shit and I was like, "Oh man, if I go to jujitsu, I'll feel good." If when I usually go to this class at school, like we don't do that much, so I could probably afford to skip once or twice. So that's
Uh-huh.
what I did. I skipped class and I went to jujitsu at 10. And then I felt so good that I went to another jujitsu class at 12.
Oh,
And then
wow.
I'm gonna go to a 5:30 class. So
Three in a day. So I'm curious, when you go to multiple classes or you're doing multiple workouts, what does each class look like? Because I have to imagine you're
hmm.
not going 100%. Are you pacing yourself for the first one, knowing you're going to have the second, or does it just depends on what the class is and the other students?
Yeah, definitely. It's when I go to multiple classes in a day, there's no way I can go to all three and scrap as hard as I can. So
Mm-hmm.
most of the time, I'm just going around 50 to 60% and really trying to focus on my technique. And so today, what I've been trying to work on is mostly just ankle locks, working
Mm-hmm.
butterfly ashi and working that control of the leg position before I try to submit.
Mm-hmm.
Because this past weekend I had a competition where I was just trying as hard as I can to finish that ankle lock, and I just could not do it. And
Oh,
thinking back on it, I was like, I really should have prioritized controlling the guy's hips and knee, and then trying to finish. Um, but yeah, back to the original question, is definitely not training hard. Mostly just training live, but also mostly focusing on technique. Yeah.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then actually, yeah, why don't we just continue to talk about this right now? Because
Yeah,
there's
that's
definitely a
good.
difference between training when you're in your teens and 20s versus training in your 40s, 50s, 60s. So for you, let's say, um, how many days a week do you feel you could train?
I mean, if I'm training smart, I could train 7 days a week, multiple times a day. But if I try to train hard, probably only 3 times a day spread out, or I'm sorry, 3 times a week, kind of spread out, like maybe every other day I'll go hard or something.
Okay. And then those days in between, would you consider that if you're working strictly on technique, would you consider that more of like an active rest, or do you consider those to be workouts?
Um, I mean, yeah, I guess I would consider it an active rest. Um, I guess, yeah, I mean, I never really had to define what constitutes as like a workout in terms of a jujitsu session, but I think, well, I don't know because sometimes, I'm having that light session where I'm going focusing on technique, but then one roll I get like a little into it and my heart rate goes up to like zone
Hmm.
4, like
Hmm.
low zone 5, high zone 4. So it all kind of blends together. Yeah.
And are you using a Whoop? Or are you using
Yeah.
Polar? You're using
Yeah,
Whoop.
I'm
Okay.
using the Whoop. I have like I got a couple bundles on Black Friday for the underwear. So I have
Okay.
like so many of the underwear. It's good quality underwear too. I like wearing
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
um but yeah, that works well for me.
Yeah. That's good because back in the day, I was having to like put it on my wrist or and then have to tape it because they didn't have the accessories back then for the grapplers. Yeah, and so when you, I mean, in a way, when you hit those higher zones, now you've changed the dynamics of your workout, right? So you've gone, even if it was just a minute or 2 minutes, you've changed what would have, let's say the class was an hour or an hour and a half. Now you've actually changed how your body is responding because of that extra workload or because of that extra stress or because of that extra intensity. So can you tell, like, if you did that extra, if you just went for it, let's say it was just one roll, but the last 90 seconds you just went for it and you were grinding it out, can you tell that that has actually changed your entire workout?
Hmm.
Like, would you see it with your heart rate and your quality of sleep?
Hmm. Um, I mean, obviously looking at the session on the Whoop app afterwards, I can definitely tell like, all right, this round, my heart rate did spike, and like it was a hard round. But in terms of like after training and sleeping and recovery, I mean, I don't really know. I haven't yeah, it's definitely hard to say because if I have a smooth session, like a light
Mm-hmm.
session and then one hard roll, I'm not totally sure if that I mean, obviously it's different than a session where I go hard the whole time,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, yeah, I'm not sure if that would have a huge impact on my recovery and sleep. I don't know. I'd really have to kind of think about that
Well,
and
and
try.
you've got the data, so you could always go back. I mean, the main thing is as long as you're feeling well, and you feel rested when you wake up, and if you when you look at your data, you're actually seeing that you had restorative sleep. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, I think generally sleep is one of my like top priorities. Because I mean I found that sleep is definitely key. When I get good sleep, I feel recovered and I feel good the next day. But there are just so many different things that affect my sleep that is just um it's difficult. Even with the Whoop, there's like I'll change one thing, but then there'll be five other factors that play into my sleep and how I feel the next day that I don't know if that one thing that changed really how much it impacted my recovery.
Hmm. Hmm. And you also just with your competition, I know you had a weight cut. So let's
Mhm.
talk about that a little bit. So you have your background, you have a lot of experience with that because you were a wrestler. And
Hmm.
so, being a wrestler is part of what goes with wrestling is weight cuts and being very aware of how much you weigh, the foods, the drinks. And so what's your walk around weight?
I'd say 165.
165. And then are you normally competing in the 155 class?
No, actually I compete at lightweight, which is 162 for no gi and then 168 for the gi.
Okay. Okay. So you don't really have to cut weight at all. You're just Your walk
No,
around
yeah.
weight is your weight.
Yeah, after wrestling, after all that hard weight cutting, for the few years I did wrestling, I was just like, I do not ever want to have to stay in a state of constant weight cutting. And because
Hmm.
I compete in jiu-jitsu so much, if I did go down a weight class, I would always have to be cutting weight. And it's just
Right.
not sustainable for me with my lifestyle. Like I'm a full-time student, I work, and I just don't think it would be conducive to my lifestyle if I was always just dead and just no energy because I was cutting.
Right. Right. So those are definitely the cons. Um, what do you how do you feel as far as your competition goes? How do you feel when you see someone that you know they're walking around anywhere from 175 into low 180s and they're dropping down? How do you feel when you see that and when you have to compete against someone like that?
Man, that if I knew that about an opponent, it would definitely kind of get into my head. But at the same time, I would I would still want to compete against them. And jujitsu, like obviously everyone knows it's kind of like the smaller guys like has a better chance of winning in comparison to something like wrestling where like weight really does matter. In jiu-jitsu, weight doesn't matter as much. You could focus a lot on technique.
Hmm.
Um, but also I don't usually know if a guy's cutting that much weight because
Oh,
I'm going
okay.
to so many of these like IBJJF tournaments. Um, there's so many, especially at my weight class, age, and the belt level, blue belt. There's so
Yeah.
many competitors that, I mean, I do see the same guys here and there, but I'm facing so many different new people that I would
Mm.
have no idea if they're, um, like, walking around at 175, 170 and cutting down to that 165.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, I try not to let it really get to me, and because in training we go against people of all sizes. Like
Right.
I'm rolling with like guys who are like 200 pounds.
Yeah.
One of my
That's
my roommates, he's like 210. I roll with him all the time and I do
right.
fine. So
Yeah.
if I could
Yeah.
do fine against him, why could I not do fine against someone who's 170, you know?
Totally. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when I was a blue belt and purple belt, I really enjoyed rolling with guys that were heavier, anywhere from like 190 to 200 because they were always using a lot of strength and force. And so it was really easy to feel like, what they were trying to do and to use the technique. But as soon as these 200 pounders started using technique, it became much harder for me because now they were actually um, using their weight appropriately and they were letting it be a strength rather than a weakness.
hmm Yeah, I really enjoy kind of going with the big guys who are maybe not as technical
Uh-huh.
because, it feels good to like hit like a clean butterfly sweep on a big guy who's like
Totally.
going in. But yeah. Okay, I had a question about so I mentioned earlier about like my recovery and sleep. This kind of ties into the weight cutting thing. So the past, 2 weeks, I've been cutting pretty hard. My daily calorie intake was for 2 weeks out, it was 1,600 calories.
Okay.
And then like the day before weigh-ins, I only had 1,200 calories. And I felt pretty fine in terms of energy levels. Like I was hungry, but it wasn't unbearable, and my sleep was good as well. And that was the biggest thing that surprised me was the whole time I was cutting for like 2 weeks straight, my recovery score on the Whoop was like 98 to 99%. Like
Oh,
it's
that's
all
incredible.
green. Yeah.
That's incredible.
And
Yeah.
and um and then this past Saturday I competed. I ate, and since then, I've been like eating a decent amount, not going crazy. Well, sometimes going crazy, but but generally trying to eat like a normal amount, right? And since Saturday, the past 5 or so days, my recovery has been like 50 to 60%. It's always been in the yellow. And
Hmm.
that's pretty rare for me. Generally, I have good recovery. And I was trying to think like why is my recovery so low compared to when I was in like a decent calorie deficit? And I think maybe it might have something to do with the amount of food I'm eating before bed. So when I was,
That was going to be my question. Is when
yeah.
are you having? Are you eating just before going to bed? Or are you giving yourself enough time between your last meal, snack, or drink and your bedtime?
So I don't think I am. And but the thing is, the time that I've eaten dinner between the time I was cutting and now hasn't changed because I train from like 6 to 7:30
Okay.
pretty much every day. And so by the time I'm showered, I get home, I'm eating dinner around 8:30 and then going to bed at like 9:30,
Okay.
right? But when I was cutting, my dinners were much smaller. They were
Yeah.
usually, I don't know, some sort of vegetable and some sort of super lean protein like fish or ground turkey. And those were only anywhere from 450 to 600 calories. Now, when I'm eating dinner after training, because I'm not in that cutting phase, my
Yeah.
dinners can get pretty hefty because I'm just like, oh, it's right after training, I'm so hungry. It'll be, I don't know, anywhere from like 800 to even 1,000 calories.
1,000 calories. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So could if I could just kind of make an estimation, uh, what I would say is when you were cutting, having those smaller and low caloric meals in the evening time was probably quite restorative because it was giving your body just enough fuel to help you recover from that last workout. Whereas when you have a larger meal and you increase your calories, it's probably so much that it actually somewhat overwhelms your digestive abilities, and your body is having to work on digesting the food rather than focusing on helping you sleep. And some people actually have a SNP or a particular genetic makeup where if they eat a number of calories before bed, it actually interferes with their circadian rhythm. So it can disrupt sleep. So there's a saying that, like, I don't remember exactly how it goes, but like you want to eat like a king in the morning and like a pauper at night. So what that means is you want to have like your big meal in the morning or around noon to give yourself enough time to digest, and then you have a small meal in the evening time so that those meals don't interfere with your sleep. And so you're actually seeing the data, and I think that's actually really good because now you know that before competitions, when you need to have really good sleep, usually that the second or third night before the competition, you should probably be having very small dinners.
Yeah, I definitely think that's something I'm gonna start doing. And it's kind of hard because at night I want to eat, I don't know, some even if I'm not hungry, something kind of tells me like just go to bed full. Like I feel
Mm.
like it's I don't know, it's like I think it's more of a mental thing than anything because I just I just like eating.
Of course you do. Especially after a nice, hard workout or a roll. That's one of the best things is to get your favorite foods and just go to town. So interesting. Yeah, that's really good data that you've got there.
For someone who maybe isn't sure um if like a bigger meal affects them before they go to bed, how do you think what do you think the best way to test if you have that genetic predisposition um for that kind of late meal affecting your recovery? Like how would someone go about testing that?
Yeah, so most people are going to notice that it's just really hard to asleep. That they might fall asleep, but then they keep waking up, or even normally they would feel like they're going to be able to fall asleep, but then their mind just kind of keeps going and it keeps waking them up. Another thing that you can do if you don't have a heart rate monitor, if you don't have Whoop, is you can start taking your pulse first thing every morning and noting what that is. So let's say you take your pulse and for over a 2 week period, you see that you're like between 48 and 55. First thing, before you get up to go to the bathroom, before you get up to have any kind of drink or food. And then let's say you're training or you end up having these really big meals before going to bed, taking your pulse, what you're more than likely going to see is you're going to be elevated. You might be around 60 or you might be in the upper 50s when you first take your pulse. And because you have that nice baseline of knowing where you are, now you've got something to compare to. And that can actually also be used to help you with your volume and intensity of training. So if you see that you wake up and your pulse is much faster than what it normally would be, that should probably be either an active recovery day, a rest day, or just a drill day without going hard.
Hmm. It's pretty interesting. Super
Yeah,
insightful. That's good.
yeah, and you could do that because you've got the Whoop, and you can just look at what your first pulse range is first thing in the morning. It's already calculating it in, but when you look and see, you're probably going to see that you're within about 5 beats when you wake up every morning.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna start yeah, having those smaller meals later in the day. Because yeah, I also have a pretty small breakfast usually. I usually just have some like oats and then like a scoop of protein powder and
Okay.
then I'll put some blueberries in there. Um I don't know, I just like starting my day off with that. And I feel decently satiated with the protein powder too.
hmm
So,
hmm And are you using any other supplements?
um when I was cutting, I wasn't having any supplements really. I mean, I was having some like here and there I would have like a an amino acid drink, like BCAAs, and then some like hydration powder. Um, and then now that I'm not cutting, I've started taking 5 grams of creatine again daily.
hmm
Um, and I don't know, my supplement use is pretty sporadic. Besides the creatine, I don't really take anything consistently. I would say the most consistent thing I do is have those electrolyte powders. Maybe if I feel like I've had a hard training session.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's those are important. Either the electrolyte powders regularly or some kind of micronutrient or mineral supplementation because with jujitsu you just sweat so much and you can actually sweat out a lot of these smaller or smaller amount micronutrients and it can be hard to get those back and your diet from what I remember your diet is pretty good, right? Your nutrition
Yeah,
is on point.
I have a lot of I try to vary what I eat a lot, and a lot of it is like very simple ingredients, a lot of zucchini, mushroom, a lot of fish, a lot of lean like ground beef and lean turkey. Um, I generally eat what makes me feel good the next day. So,
Okay, that's excellent. Yeah, that's excellent. And that, I mean, dude, that right there, that's going to take you so far. Making sure that your nutrition is on point, that you're hydrated. and that you're getting good rest, those are like the fundamentals right there. You can train and train, every single day, but if you're getting injured because your nutrition's not good, if your brain is foggy because you're not getting enough rest, then you're just not going to be able to compete at the level that you're competing right now. So yeah, you're doing really
Yeah,
well.
that's kind of when, especially when I was in that like cutting phase, that's kind of really what I was prioritizing most, right? I was because I also did a little bit of a water cut. Generally I was drinking like a gallon and a half to 2 gallons a day. So I felt pretty hydrated the whole time. And then also because I was um only having like 1,600 calories, I wanted to have the most satiating foods possible.
Hmm.
And the most satiating foods are definitely going to be like vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, squash, because they just have so much volume.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and then obviously I was pretty tired, so my sleep would be really good. So I had
yeah,
that diet, hydration, and sleep.
yeah. So I have a question for you. So if you could give three three important points to people that want to compete, right? Someone who, let's say, they've been rolling, they just got their blue belt, or maybe they're a purple belt, and they really want to compete. What are the three things that you would suggest to them that they focus on?
Hmm.
Because it's
Three
and I'm asking
things.
this because there's a difference between going to class, having fun, and rolling, and going to class in order to prepare yourself for a tournament.
Hmm. Yeah, so I think like in this scenario, would you say the person is competing because they want to win or because they just like jujitsu so much and they want to test their technique?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because I feel like
Let's
there's
start.
different types
Yes,
of.
no, you're right. There's totally different motivations. Let's go with they want to win.
Okay, okay. I feel like that one's a little bit. Well, I mean,
They're both
okay. If
valid, but
yeah,
but
they're
let's
both
just
valid.
focus on the one that they want to win. They want to be on the podium.
Okay. So yeah, I think, man. Um, so in terms of, I think three good points. Um, I think number one is maybe know know what you like to do in terms of jujitsu technique. Um, so say if you're a top player, focus on playing top in the weeks coming up into the competition, or at least 1 week coming up before the competition, because if you know you're not gonna play guard in the competition, why would you um train hard and train your guard hard? You're gonna want to train your passing and that types of stuff.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think the one of the things would be to know you and your jujitsu style and know your jujitsu game so that you know you have a game plan going into it. It's have that game plan. The second most important thing would be to definitely focus on your cardio because your cardio
Okay.
is gonna get pushed if you're competing for the first time. And even no matter what, if you're a purple belt and your technique is really good, if you've never competed before, you're gonna push your cardio and it's gonna be hard. Even if you
Yeah.
know how to control your cardio and you know how to control the pace in the room, everything's different when you're trying to win on a competition mat. So the grips, your forearms are gonna be like dead by the end of it. You're gonna be out of breath. It's gonna be rough. So if someone wants to really win at their first competition, in the weeks, maybe even months leading up to it, I would say to do some sort of interval cardio training because I think that really gets, at least in my experience for me, when I regularly do interval cardio training, either on the assault bike or the elliptical, I
Hmm.
definitely notice it in my competition. I feel like I can go
Hmm.
um, much harder than if I had not done that.
Okay, that's
And
good. Okay,
then and then lastly, so number one was focus on your
know your
jujitsu
game.
technique, know your
Yep.
game. Number two is focus on your cardio. Number three, I think it just kind of comes down to mm, I would say just take your recovery and diet seriously. Like just like sleep and diet, kind of what we've been talked about or what we've been talking about. Like get
Yeah.
that diet dialed in and get that sleep dialed in. I feel like these are kind of basic, boring answers, but they're
But
basic and
it's
it's
the
the truth.
fundamentals though,
Yeah, it's the
and
fundamentals.
how many people don't do the fundamentals,
Yeah.
right? And even with jujitsu, I mean, when you see the highest level, yeah, they might be doing some things that you're not necessarily familiar with or you couldn't hit, but it's all based on the fundamentals still.
It's not, I feel like people overcomplicate it so much when it comes to competition preparation. And it's really the most basic things that they could be doing. If they do these basic things, they're gonna succeed. They like it's yeah, it's just it's simple.
There's that what is it? Keep it simple, stupid.
Exactly. Like you do not have to like and it especially like it's hard with like social media because the crazy outlandish stuff
Mm,
gets views and it gets people's attention, but and people kind of want that. They don't want the answer to be so simple and so easy,
mm,
right? They want the answer to be something that they've never heard of, some like magical secret, when it's really just focus on your cardio, know your technique, focus on your recovery and diet, and you'll be fine.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then one thing that I didn't touch on, but I think is pretty important, maybe not in the top three, is just kind of the mental side of competing,
Mm,
and like not getting too anxious. But also I I left that out of the top three things, I think, because especially for your first competition, it's almost impossible to not get anxious and not get
mm,
nervous.
yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's interesting that you say that because that's actually one of my issues. Um, I mean, if you count the matches that you've had with jujitsu, but also wrestling, I mean, you've got to be in triple digits easy,
Yeah, I
right?
think I think definitely.
Yeah. So, with you, you've got a lot of experience, and you also um, you were developing that at somewhat of an earlier age too, just by having gone through that with high school. Where someone like me, I played a lot of different sports, but I really didn't play something that was just one on one. It was always team sports. So for for me, the anxiety or sometimes worry that comes when a match approaches, that's something for me that I want to work on. I want to have improvement, um, because I feel like that's going to help me overall. It's going to help me on the mat. It's going to help me off of the mat. It's going to just help me be a better person. Just focusing on being present in the moment and being fully aware as I'm present.
Mm. Yeah, it's I mean, I feel like once people kind of get over that, once maybe they've had their first or second competition, they can get over the technical aspects and the cardio aspects. But I think the hardest thing for competitors, even high level competitors who compete all the time, is just, yeah, the mental side of things. Like
Mm-hmm.
all the physical stuff, once you've got that dialed in, because I mean, compared to the mental stuff, the physical stuff is pretty easy. Once you've got the
Yeah.
physical stuff dialed in, then the time comes to try to yeah, like really dial that mental game in and get over those hurdles. And it's difficult. It's really, really
Hmm.
hard. And some people just, I don't know, some people just can't do it. And I think that's what separates like the really like top level guys from the other guys.
Yeah, yeah, and that's going to be the case with all sports or anything that is performance oriented, right? So it's not just sports; it happens in professional life, in other aspects too. But yeah, those are three, now four, let's say. Those are those are good. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are this is gonna make some really good good videos for Instagram. Do you have an Instagram page, by the way, also?
I had one, but I basically dropped everything with COVID.
Mm.
And now that I'm creating, oh, so I don't know if your dad told you, but I'm creating another clinic here in PB. It's called Pacific Regeneration, and it's all based on regenerative techniques and regenerative medicine. So using, um, either your own blood products or using exosomes or stem cells. And then I'm using energy, frequency, and vibration based modalities to help people recover from injuries, but also to help people's performance. Because as we were talking about, the better that you can recover, then that means the harder you can go. But it also means if you're injury free, you're going to be able to train as often as you want. You can stick to your training patterns. So yeah, so part of what I'm doing now, and I'm so grateful to you, is being able to educate folks and put these put this content together to help folks.
Yeah, yeah, because I was thinking, when we do post this stuff, Instagram has a feature where it could be like a collaborative post. So it
Oh, awesome.
posts to my page and also your page.
Okay,
So if you had like an Instagram page, we could like do that collaborative post and we could just
awesome,
make a decent amount of videos for that.
awesome. Yeah, I will. I have to decide if I want it to be through Pacific Regeneration or my own page. I'll probably have it on my own page, and then through Google, I'll have this simultaneously post for the clinic. But I think I'd like to keep this content for myself. You know?
Yeah, I really think that that would be the best decision. Because people are gonna probably click on the profile, and then if you had like your credentials where you went to school in your bio, and then
Mm,
also maybe tagged the clinic in your bio, they'd see the credentials and then be like, oh, I want to, get work done from this guy, and they'd go to the clinic from there. But yeah, if it's just videos of us talking, I really think it'd be a good idea to have it connect to your page.
awesome. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Well, this was a good start.
Yeah, dude, that was great. I think there were like a bunch of good topics we talked about. Probably get like, I don't know, like 7 to 10 videos out of it,
Nice.
honestly.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm gonna go to my third training session of the day.
I'm
Go work
gonna
on
go
some more
check the
ankle
surf
lock
again.
finishing. Nice, nice. But yeah, all right. Do you want to do this again next week,
Yeah.
like around this time?
Yeah. Yeah. Let me see. You said the Wednesday could be a possibility, right?
Yeah, yeah, Wednesday could be a possibility. Pretty much
Okay.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from like 2 to 5,
Okay.
any of those windows, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll let you know because Wednesday is probably going to work out for me for next week, and then we'll cover some other topics.
All right. And then
All
as
right,
soon
man.
as I make some of those videos, I'll send them to you, see if they look good, and then we can post them.
Sounds great. Sounds great. And thanks for the advice. I'll go ahead and set up. I'll either resurrect my old Instagram or I'll just create a new one.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
All
man.
right.
Hey, well, have a good session for your third one. All
Thank you. Thank you. Have
right.
a nice
Take care.
surf check. Peace
Thanks,
out.
man. All right. Bye bye.
Bye.